That's very entertaining. You always make me laugh.
We have to.
We have to laugh today.
Our panel of teachers, and that means that you have the opportunity to ask a question. So if you had one question to ask, what would that be? And if you're ready to ask it, please raise your hand. And when I call on you, please stand up and share your name with us first. And try to keep it brief so that I can repeat it for everyone in the room to hear. Yes?
So, a struggle I've had my whole life, with all the talking that I know is deep and precious faith, but what is faith?
So the question is, what is faith?
Well, I'll start, and then maybe we could each weigh in on this. But it says in the Psalms, Tov lehodot l'Adonai u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, lahagid baboker chastecha ve'emunatcha b'leilot. It's good to give thanks to God, to sing the highest praise. When the light shines, we speak of God's mercy, but at night, God's faithfulness. So for me, faith is what we hold on to when we're walking in the dark, when we can't see, when we can't think or understand our way through things. So faith is our flashlight when we're walking in the dark, when we just don't know. And, we can only understand so much with our minds, with our rationality, but faith is thinking of the world in God's terms. It's a whole other scale. It's not the finite scale of things. It's infinite.
My definition of faith would be trust. In the New Testament, Jesus often says, in healing people, says, go your way, your trust has healed you. Now that's been translated as faith in the English, but in fact the word in Greek, and the New Testament is written in Greek, is pisteuo, which means to trust. So, and then of course what the church did, especially after it took over the empire in the 4th century, was to turn faith into a series of propositions and dogmas, put it in the head. And that is so far from its original meaning of trust. Trust is in the heart. It's not apart from the mind, the intellect, but it's far more inclusive. It links to wisdom, the word that came up several times today, I think. But again, for me, faith in its most raw and pure meaning is about trust. And this fits, I think, with what Estelle was saying. In the dark, in difficult times, we're called upon to bring our trust forward, and that is a return to the real meaning of faith.
Faith is to believe in your mother, her mother, the mother of your mother, the grandfather, mother of the grandmother, and you go 10 mothers, and you have to believe that number 10 exists. Even though you cannot see her, you have to have faith. Because of that one, I am here. I can't be here without that one, even though I cannot see her, and I don't know how she looks like, but because of her, I am here. So faith, you have to believe there is God. Number one, even though you cannot see. Just like you cannot see the grandmother. You cannot see God, but you have to believe it's there. If not God, you're not here. That's first one. Number two, you have to believe there is angels, even though you cannot see them. You have to have faith. There are angels. Number three, you have to have faith. There are scriptures, holy scriptures, plural. Torah is a scripture, Gospel is a scripture, Quran is a scripture, and other scriptures. Abraham had a scripture, Adam has a scripture. There are scriptures that people put down, prophets, that talks about God. That's number three. So God, the angels, the scriptures. Then you have to believe in all the prophets, the representative of God. And that you have to believe they're infallible and they're coming to talk about God. So if you have a company that sells chocolate and you send one representative to another place to sell chocolate, you're going to give the best chocolate in a suitcase. You're not going to give the worst ones. They're going to be perfect chocolate. So for a prophet to speak about God, they have to be perfect. Otherwise, they say, well, you make mistakes. Why I listen to you? So they're perfect. So God, the angels, the scriptures, the prophets. How many they are? 124,000 they came. Even in the jungle, they have their own prophet. So in the hereafter, in God's judgment day, no one can say, we never heard about you. They say, no, I sent you these people. My representative. They told you about me. Nobody can manipulate or say something. So we said God, the angels, the scriptures, all the prophets. Then destiny. You have to believe in destiny, bad or good. Means God has written everything in his divine TV guide. That you're going to be sitting there, I'm going to be sitting here. I didn't plan to be near him or him near me. That's destiny. Bad or good is from God. So if you're stuck in the freeway, don't yell at people like that. Say, I am, and then put some music. And then you have to believe there's a day of judgment, the end of this. There's a day where God's going to judge everyone. These are the 6 pillars that makes faith.
Thank you, Issa. Do we have another question in the room? Yes. Hi.
Reverend, once you raised the level of question that going deeper into the unknowing is a way of paradoxically re-engaging life. Please elaborate on that point.
Well, as Estelle talked about letting go, and I think letting go of projections is so important. Allowing life to teach us. My Sheikh has a marvelous phrase. He says, we sink eternally from letting go to letting go into the one. So in other words, letting go never ceases. In fact, death is one more example of letting go, one more experience of letting go. And if we learn to let go in our life, then death does not frighten us. We've learned the practice. We've developed our muscles for letting go. But to sink into the one is a beautiful aspiration. It's a beautiful experience. And it's there with the one, and that we become one with the one, where we experience true peace and unity, beauty, grace. And this does not happen once in our life. It happens many times in our life. My Sheikh says, for the person who's learned to let go, breakthrough does not happen once a year once a month or once a week, but many times every day. And in Breakthrough, he says, I learned that God and I are one. So this letting go practice is it's a daily thing. And life itself teaches us the value of letting go. I'm just thinking right now of your first child, your first baby. There's so much letting go that goes on, right? Your entire life becomes, you're no longer in charge. And isn't that what our whole discussion this evening has been about that we're not in control. And that's what the Sheikh was talking about. We're not in control, but we have to keep learning this, because it's both and. On the one hand, we do have to be in control of some things. We are responsible. We have to make decisions, etc., and take responsibility for our decisions. So it's a both and, isn't it? But I think that so much in our culture is about security and the perfect insurance policy, and the mythology of a materialistic culture is almost idolatrous about being in control. And also patriarchy. Patriarchy is essentially about control. And the birthing process is about chaos. And we need to learn to dance with both chaos and order. Pablo Casals used to say, freedom with order. Freedom with order. And so I think that's part of the dance we're dancing today, and between chaos and order. And the opposite of that is, well, the fascist philosophy of law and order, as if we can proclaim order. But no, the mystics are reminding us that letting go is at the heart of remaining free and young, youthful. My Starker says, I'm younger today than I was yesterday. If I'm not younger tomorrow than I am today, I'd be ashamed of myself. God is novissimus, he says, the newest thing in the universe. God is eternally young. Mm-hmm. And that's why the Bible begins, both Bibles, he says, begin with the word in the beginning, because God is always in the beginning, wanting to make everything new. So for me, all that has something to do with your question, which I have forgotten. Thank you. It's a nice ride.
Yes.
How much room do you have in your view of faith, to someone who does not believe that there's a God who created, that this scripture is holy, and still strives to conduct a moral life based on a view that there's goodness in us, but not necessarily an external force that controls our lives, just something that is innate into our nature?
Is that Question for someone specific?
Mostly, you might have actually to everyone.
So you
presented this philosophy.
God gave us something very, 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 very precious. What is that? Free will and free want. Animals, they get hungry, they eat. I am hungry, but I can decide not to eat. I'm going to fast. Free will. So you can decide not to believe or to believe. And God respects that. He calls it free will. He allowed Adam and Eve to eat so they can experience free will. If they didn't eat, there'd be no free will. We'll be like doing everything, no free will. In your free will, you decided, okay, I'm going to point toward goodness. Goodness is a branch from this tree. That branch will lead you to the trunk. One day you'll see there is where the goodness comes from. And at the end, we'll meet at the same place. Say, I was just using goodness. I said, yeah, me too. And then you'll meet there. Goodness will meet with goodness. And that branch will take you there. They have a saying, bird of the same feather. Flock together. There was a couple, they didn't see each other's feet for 30 years. A man and a husband and a wife. 30 years. They always had socks. And after 30 years, they looked at the feet. The husband lost his toe because he told his friend, please chop my toe so I don't go to the army, so because I can't fit the shoes. So he was hiding his foot. The lady, she said, me and my brother, we were chopping wood, and we used to play around. We put our foot, and then before the axe come, I take it off. But one time he was faster, he chopped my toe. And that's how they met, and they get husband and wife, and they're together. Bird of the same feather. So if you hold on goodness, it will take you to a good place.
Take care of your feet.
Thank
Take care
you.
of your
Do we have another question?
Yeah. This came out of the discussion that I had with Carmen, and it's just the relationship between faith and faithfulness. It's a very rich and important thing for us to consider.
Estelle, do you want to, the distinction between faith and faithfulness,
Relation.
or the relation between faith and faithfulness.
How they can feed each other.
Well, I think your faithfulness is, a core piece of integrity and virtue, and it's hard to have faith in another if you're not faithful. So our own faithfulness is part of the building blocks of having faith or trust in others or in the divine. So we have to be able to trust ourselves and know ourselves. I wanted to share a story. This isn't exactly faith and faithfulness, but in relation to Marty's question about faith. And I think a big piece of faith is also being able to zoom out and not just see the moment, not just see what's right in front of us, but to also see what's hidden and the whole picture. And there's a story in the Talmud about Rabbi Akiva, who was walking with several of the other sages to Jerusalem, and they lived during the first century, during the time during and after when the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed by the Romans. And so as they were approaching Jerusalem, they saw a fox coming out of the Holy of Holies, the innermost sanctum of the temple. And the other sages wept and tore their garments in mourning for the loss of Jerusalem. And Rabbi Akiva laughed. And they said to him, Akiva, why are you laughing or crying? And he said, until this moment, when I see the fox coming out of the temple, I didn't know that the prophecies would come true, and that just as there was a prophecy about the destruction of the temple and it has come true, now I know that the prophecy about the rebuilding of Zion and the redemption will come true. Therefore I'm laughing. So he was a non-dual master. He didn't just divide things into good and bad, but he saw the long arc of history, which is what I think we need to do today to get through this dark time with faith. faith is that ability to see past this moment when things are pretty terrible, to know that this is part of a longer story and a longer process of redemption and awakening that is happening. And sometimes things have to fall apart to reconstruct in a better way. So the good news is yet to come, and that's faith.
If I could just address the question very quickly. Faithfulness, trust, and being entrusted. I think that both of those are very important to faith, Or to put it differently, does God have faith in us? Does the universe have faith in us? This experiment of the human species, a so-called rational animal, it's an experiment. Is it going to work out? How is it going to end? It's pretty wild. Who was drunk when the human race was invented? So it works both ways. Trust. The universe has entrusted us with history in this tiny little corner that we call Earth. And how are we doing? And isn't it time to grow up and take responsibility for being entrusted, because we have so much power, so many choices, that we can destroy this amazingly beautiful, unique, and special planet with all these amazing species. And I think that's part of the grief that we're feeling. We're feeling grief today. And we have to acknowledge that. And we need grief rituals to get us into our sorrow, and so that we can become trustworthy again. Because we have been entrusted, and we're not responding as generously, as wisely, and as joyfully as we're capable of.
So we now are moving into the closing of our gathering tonight, and if Sheikh Issa would come and lead us, we will move into song and Dzikr with Issa and Yasir. And are we moving the chair?
They wanted in 4 rows on each side of the chairs.
Okay.
I was asked after the chairs were.
So please stand and move your chairs into 4 rows on each side of the room.
To invite us to make one inner circle and one outer circle. I think we have enough people to do that. So come towards the center. There may end up being one large one. I can't really tell how many people are here. We can do 2? Okay. We'll see. One, yeah. Okay. So this practice This embodied practice that we're going to engage in together is the practice of Dzikr, of remembering, or in line with this evening, this practice of knowing and not knowing intertwined as one reality. And in the Dzikr, we do the remembering of divine names, the remembering of the names of the divine, because in the understanding of Sufism, the divine is manifesting in every atom of existence. And all we have to do is remember that remembering that it is what is our very existence, our very being, that of which we are a member, is that divine existence. So in the remembering of the divine name, we begin by repeating with our tongue, with our mind, but with the intention that that repetition descends into the cave of the heart, that that repetition there resonates and joins the cosmic remembrance, the cosmic divine manifestation of this very moment. So we begin with the Dzikr, who. This is what we call the name of the essence, the name that is the breath of the divine that brings existence into existence. And from this name we move into the manifest reality of life, high, and finally we return back to the breath. And as we do this, let's have the inner circle move that way and the outer circle move that way. Who